So, okay, let's start the first one. So, research with children regarding the rights in the Convention on the Rights of the Child, an international comparison during the COVID-19 pandemic. There is no conflicts of interest to disclose this. Okay. UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, abbreviated CRC, children's opinions should be considered in all matters that concern them, Article 12. During the COVID-19 pandemic, children's voices are dismissed. The direct impact of COVID-19, it is less than flu or RS virus infections for children. However, the indirect impact of COVID-19 is serious for children and young people. For example, the teen suicide cases and the rates in Japan have been increasing during the pandemic. We held the Global Child Dialogues in South Korea, Sweden, Tanzania, and Japan. Children met and discussed one or two selected articles from the convention, whether their rights are protected or not, and make policy proposals. The project was ongoing 2022 to 2023. The children were aged 9 to 19 years. Each group had 3 to 10 participants. About 1 hour was spent on each article. The 10 articles in the convention that we selected are listed in this slide. Notably, there is one extra for education. Education, Article 28 and 29. The dialogues were carried out as follows. Children read the child-friendly version in their own language and talked about its implications. In order to get a free dialogue, we avoid interrupting them. They gave examples of what rights are being violated and how that feels. They discuss what can be done to protect these rights and make proposals to the government. The table shows the number of global child dialogues for each article in the 4 countries. The dialogues for each article were held at least at once in each country. We had 37 dialogues in Japan, 22 in South Korea, 16 in Sweden, and 18 in Tanzania. Here, you see the numbers of children participating in each country, their gender and age. Notably, 2 children in Japan didn't want to say their gender. More girls participated in South Korea, and more boys joined in Sweden and Tanzania. The age range was relatively high in Tanzania. The dialogues in the 4 countries gave a lot of interesting findings. Here I have selected one result from each country. First, Japan. Article 2, no discrimination. The children's opinion was to stop education that separates boys and girls and eliminate gender itself. Interesting. Then the South Korea, Article 31, right to play and cultural participation. The children's opinion was that the no kids zone expanding in restaurants and public facilities is a typical example of child rights violation. This phenomenon is unfortunately also seen in Japan. Then for Sweden, Article 12, rights to express opinions. The children concluded that there is already a system in place for them to make their voices heard. Notably, the Convention on the Rights for the Child was integrated into Sweden's law from 2020 and onwards. For Tanzania, a particular problem cited was the burden of domestic labor on girls. To improve the situation, their proposal was to educate parents not to force their children to do housework, house chore. Okay, finishing. Sorry. To conclude, children have the right to envision their future. They have the right to give proposals that can change policies in their country. We should take them seriously, and we must never close our eyes to the fact that the future of innocent children is being taken away during conflicts today. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention. Gracias por su atención.
Any question? ¿Alguna pregunta? ¿Algún comentario? No?
Okay. Yes? Okay. Thank you very much. One.
Just one question.
Don't run, I've got a voice.
No, that's for the streaming. We need to do this.
Yeah. It's on. Yes, thank you. Now my question is, so the children made propositions. Who were they sent to? Who could hear? I mean, here we could hear their propositions, but in their country, who was the receiver of their proposition, and were there any actions taken on them?
That's the most important thing. So each researcher planning to give some articles in their countries, and also in Japan. Next year, in March, we will hold a special group meeting, so opened to mass media or other things. And also, we are planning to publish a book, so written, so using their words, so the authors, not only our researchers, but also children's names. So I'm planning like that. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. You all are welcome. Although there is no routine notification system for all injuries in Turkey yet, 5,000 road traffic deaths and 5 times means 25,000 injured have been recorded every year. As you know, children, elderly, pedestrians, bicycle and motorcycle users are more vulnerable in Turkey as in the whole country in the world. In our country, the population is increasing up to 90 millions, approximately, and the traffic burden is increasing. Naturally, victims, road traffic victims are increasing. Our objectives are, it is difficult to see, maybe, yeah. This study aimed to analyze road traffic injuries in children and reduce morbidity and mortality by identifying the risk factors. To reveal independent risk factors that increase injury severity and Glasgow Coma scores by examining the characteristics of the cases monitored in the pediatric emergency and compare the results with national and international data. Thank you. To contribute to the improvement and promotion of a well-organized, standardized, and multi-agency approach in pediatric emergency departments. Children who applied to pediatric emergency department were the subjects. We examined the last 5 years retrospectively. 1,227 children with complete data were included in the study. The data record form was used. Data were evaluated with frequency, percentage distribution, mean, median, and comparative analysis. By sex, 66% were male and 34% were female. Age range was mostly between 9 years. Peak season were June and July. The peak admission hours was 4 and 6 p.m. 4 and 8 p.m. The type of road injury, child pedestrians were more than 45%, and they were injured by private car, mostly. In-vehicle injuries was 32%, mostly in private car. We like cars, automobiles very much in Turkey, and it's increasing day by day, unfortunately. Bicycle was approximately 6%, and motorcycle 16%. Driver and in some portion with in-vehicle passenger. For example, there was a case, the grandfather and grandchild were injured, and grandfather died, and we care of the toddler. The type of injury, this slide shows the type of injury. The most affected body parts were the head and neck, then the extremities. This was followed by multiple trauma. For in-vehicle injuries, 12 of cases used seat belts. 5.5% traveled in a child safety seat. 19 traveled in the front seat. They were younger than 13 of age. While 1.5% of children riding bicycles and motorcycles were protective clothing, 26.7% used protective headgear, helmet. Serious injury rates were 18%, 5, according to the injury severity scale. According to Glasgow Coma Scale, it was found to be 3%. Serious injuries were significantly higher in unprotected road users, naturally, mostly motorcycle users. Hospitalization was made mostly pediatric emergency department and pediatric surgery. Children required surgery was about 10%, the majority in orthopedics and trauma department. Approximately 5% of the cases were hospitalized in PQ. This slide shows disability range and injury severity scores we evaluated by them. Injuries by regression analysis, you can review. There are advantages and limitations of our study. This was an important reference center in its region. One of the most detailed studies on road traffic injuries in children in Turkey. But it was a single center and retrospective, and there was no control group. As you know, this problem is a major cause of morbidity, mortality, and disability, especially for children. Risk awareness is low in our country, and measures are still insufficient. Individual counseling is needed during routine health care. Injury prevention should be included in the health education curriculum in schools. We found that protective measures are taken. When protective measures are taken, serious in-vehicle injuries decrease significantly. There are some suggestions. You can also read on the poster abstract. There is an agenda regarding substantial development goals. There is a new agenda for 2021 and 2030 for road traffic injuries by United Nations. And its major target is to decrease road traffic injuries burden at least 50% until 2030. The World Day of Remembrance for road traffic injuries takes place in this Sunday, November 19. And this day's objective is to provide a platform for road traffic victims and their families. Thank you.
Any brief comment or suggestion? No? I don't know what's the microphone.
Thank you. That was very interesting and a really great presentation. I was curious, I feel like a lot of road safety tends to be, to a certain extent, cultural. Like I know that when I lived in Canada, getting my child to sit in his car seat and want to do that was very easy because everyone else did it and it was very accepted. And then I know when I moved to Florida, there were different rules and different things, and so it was much harder. So I'm just curious, culturally, the acceptance of using kind of car seats and that kind of thing. I was curious.
Mm-hmm. I know only 7 to 8% of countries have appropriate traffic injury prevention rules. In Turkey, we don't have the whole appropriate rules, but we have rules. For example, Seat belt. I know it was established in 1985, but most of the people don't use seat belts in back seats, and there is no control. And in 2009, the rule for child safety seat was established. A few people can use it. There is no control. But there are controls for especially alcoholic drinks, driving with alcohol consumption and speed. But I know the speed limits, for example, in inner cities, it is 30 kilometers per hour or 20 miles per hour, suggested by WHO and United Nations. It's not the rule in Turkey.
Thank you. Thank you.
If there are more comments from Turkey colleagues about traffic rules, but control is important. There are rules, but control is important. And the road environmental, physical environment is important. Thank you.
Okay, dear colleagues, good afternoon. This is Gonca from Turkey. I will present our study titled Outcome of Regular Well-Child Follow-up from the Birth on Adolescent Well-Being. The effectiveness of preventive health services in service applied in childhood in adolescence is known. However, there is a limited number of studies on the physical and mental health conditions, family communications, and the reflections during the adolescence period of individuals who continued their well-child visits in childhood. The aim of our study was to investigate the outcome of regular follow-up of well-child follow-up from birth on the physiological and psychosocial characteristics in adolescence. Our study was conducted with the children follow-up regularly in Istanbul University Well-Child Outpatient Clinic and continued to be followed-up in the unit of Adolescent Health Outpatient Clinic. And these children are consist of Group 1. And the children with the children who were followed up to the unit of Adolescent Health Outpatient Clinic without regular follow-up in the childhood, these children consist of Group 2. In shortly, I will define the routine process of our well-child clinic in Istanbul University. In our well-child follow-up outpatient clinic, all children are followed up with the personal health records created at the time of the first administration. Follow-up intervals start in the first 15th day of life and then monthly for the first 6 months, at 7 to 8 months, at 19 months, and 3 months apart between 9 to 18 months, and 6 months apart between 2 and 6 years, and yearly between 6 and 10 years. After 10 years of age, children transferred to Adolescent Health Outpatient Clinic and continue to follow up in this unit. In Istanbul University Hospital's well-child outpatient clinic, history including prenatal, natal, and postnatal period, feeding types, especially breastfeeding, history of family breastfeeding history, family information, including maternal and paternal age, education levels, and family of history are obtained at the first visit. Anthropometric measurements, with weight, height, and head circumference up to 3 years of age, and are made in each visit by experimental health personnel and recorded with the national current growth. Detailed physical examination is performed and age-appropriate vaccine according to the National Immunization Program was applied. Also vaccines that are not included in our national immunization program, such as in our country, meningococcal vaccines, rotavirus vaccines, influenza vaccines, and HPV vaccines are applied if the family can provide them. age-appropriate development status is evaluated also. If any health problem is recorded in this personal record system, multidisciplinary management is started with the relevant department if necessary. In adolescents' health outpatient clinic, personal health record recorded at the first administration too. In our present study, personal data files in adolescent health outpatient clinic between September 2015 and January 2023 were evaluated retrospectively. Height, weight and body mass index, SDS value, if any hemoglobin, hematocrit, vitamin B12, total cholesterol, HDL cholesterol value, and psychosocial assessment by HETS screen tool were recorded. All data analyses were performed with the SPSS version 28. Our results are the group 1, which was continued to follow up from the well-tried visits, consists of group 1, consists of 138 children, and group 2 consists of 130 children. Mean age of first administration to adolescent outpatient clinic was 10 in group 1 and was 11 in group 2. Age to first administration to adolescent outpatient clinic was significantly lower in group 1 than in group 2, and this was significant statistically. Yes, it was so hard. Weight and BMI SDS values were higher in group 2, and this was significant statistically. Height SDS values were not different between the groups. There was no difference between the groups regarding the education levels of mothers and fathers. In the comparison of laboratory data, the frequency anemia was statistically higher in group 2, and there was no difference in terms of ferritin levels or lipid values between the groups. The risk, in the risk areas of home, with the evaluation of HEAD score, the risk areas in home, example, nobody talked to in the home, violence in home. The risk in education means nobody talk when there is a problem in the school or being bullied. Risk in eating or nutritional behavior, for example, bad nutrition content, and the suicide were found to be significantly high in group 2. There was no difference between the groups in comparing regular physical activity or safety. As a conclusion, our study's result emphasized that regular follow-up of children from the birth positively affects adolescent health care, and their children are more resilient, that might be more resilient than the others, and these positive outcomes consist of both physiological and psychological characteristics. Thank you.
Any questions, suggestions? No? You can give me the paper. Yes.
Thank you. Interesting study. There are very few studies actually with these kinds of follow-up programs. But being an epidemiologist, I have to ask a difficult question maybe, and that is about, you don't mention any kind of randomization or so into the two groups. So do we have any reason to believe that there were differences in the selection of which children ended up in either group?
We took all children with the recorded data. We randomized that children. Okay, we took all children from the adolescent outpatient with the randomization. Our randomization was the children who came from us. We are a well-child outpatient clinic, and the children who came from the other outpatient clinics, like general practice, general pediatricians, or other chronic, other outpatient clinics who are dealing with the chronic diseases. We took all the children.
Okay, so, but you didn't randomize them because they were selected into the study like that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah?
Let's talk about the suicide risk.
Yes, 2 children of our well-tried will have suicide risk. We don't know why this, but in the follow-up well-tried way, we didn't notice this. This is the, yes. Yes. Any?
I could talk for an hour probably on that, but I'm just going to mention a few keywords here, which is several rights of the children are violated every day by the marketing companies. Here we're talking about preventing addiction to nicotine. We're not even talking about smoking, okay? Nicotine products. And someone mentioned yesterday they are really creative, and we need to be as creative as that. But before I come to that, I need to come back at the origin of the project, which is during COVID, we had our own task force at canton level. A nightmare to manage for my boss. Every big expert there had a very strong opinion on things. Difficult to get a consensus. So it gave the task to my colleague, you know, can we do something efficiently to have quickly a consensus in a situation when we don't know the answer, and we need to give something to the people who are making political decisions on some of these aspects. So we developed a fast-track Delphi consultation, which is a mix between a nominal group technique and the classical Delphi, which usually takes months or years. And we managed to do within 3 weeks, 18 days is the project, you can read about the detail later, to have consensus on one question, which is, I need to read it and it's too small for me there. What are the aspects on which the new legislation could be influenced so we can forbid access to the new products? You might not see it, it's too small on the screen there, but can you zoom on it? Yes. If you can zoom, if you could zoom on the image, because this is illustrating thank you very much. This is illustrating the creativity. The arrows are at the end of what we call puff-like, disposable, one shot, nicotine, e-cigarettes, okay? Look at the colors, look at the names, look at the flavors. They're targeting teenagers, full stop, okay? So we managed to develop the process after a pragmatic review, and we defined very strict steps. The key one was to keep the expert in check during the nominal group technique, somewhere online, somewhere present. And of course, they want to explain straight away, and not just one word, and we did 4 rounds, and then you can expand on that. I developed the whole code so we can run it very quickly. We've used R as a language and using RStudio to produce the documents. Can you go to the bottom of the page there? Thank you. At the end, we have this group. People will raise the keywords, then they will expand. We select the items that would go in the first questionnaire. After the questionnaire, round 2, they received the statement which described all, you can see the vertical bars, the box plot at the bottom, but the person can situate themselves. If we do it like this.
Can you sit?
No, I'll do it from here, I'm fine. Here, this person replied 7 out on a scale of 1 to 9 on the Likert scale. And you can see in red just above, we defined a consensual agreement was reached if we had a median above 7 or above. But the key was the consensus, and we pragmatically choose the interquartile range of 3. I'll let you do it. I'm not at the right angle. If you can move to the results, thank you. We'll focus on the first one. We managed after the 3rd round to have 21 out of 26 statements for which we reached agreement. That was very, very informative. And the main one was total ban on the scale of disposable electronic tobacco / nicotine products. but we're pragmatic. They were pragmatic, and they say it's not going to be feasible because the industry has got, in Switzerland, a very strong influence. We have the headquarters of 3 or 4 tobacco companies there. So they came up with a series of very pragmatic on some elements that can go in the next law, which will come in next year. And at European level, there are some things that will move on. If you can move further, you have these online. You can read them, and we can talk about it. But what was as informative as where we had the consensus was the non-consensus area. And for instance, the opportunity to reduce the risk in adult smokers, which you could see the benefit with someone trying to diminish the number of cigarettes they're taking. There was debate among experts. You know, people like me were saying, yeah, there are other products, and just for environmental issues, this is completely scandalous. I mean, this is one shot with a battery that is chucked in there. So what we managed to do is to develop a tool and to test it with this group of experts. And you can do consensus within 3 weeks if you're in a crisis situation. We put the pressure on everyone. We worked hard during these weeks, I can tell you. And we're just replicating the use of the tool with a French-speaking Society of Tobacco Prevention people over 6 weeks, so they've got time to read, and because they're French-speaking, we have a 54 pages first report full of comments, but we just finished it last week, literally. So the tool work is a bit of fine-tuning, and happy to answer any question. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. It's a really interesting methodology of using a fast-track Delphi process. I was curious in terms of, so this process was sort of undergone with tobacco control experts, and I was curious, who were the experts and where were youth in those experts? We've done sort of similar work, and the answers that you get from youth in terms of how to regulate this are very different than I think what the adults say.
Thank you very much for the question. The experts were adults. We had no youth here. This was not the intention, despite me saying, and the kids and the youngsters, but we're not there yet. But there was no representative of the tobacco industry because we were really strict on that, because otherwise we know where it goes. But the tool, I keep trying to bring in my boss, who's going to talk about it next week in France. This is not only for consensus for experts. You can have a consensus on any topic with anyone, but the only limit here, you need to be able to read, and is the task of the people phrasing the questions to make it understandable. And you can use other tools for youngsters, but you could go to the population. You could take a group of politicians here and say, okay, what are the strong elements that you see with the same question? And then we could work their opinion on that. And we will have, of course, various opinions and divergent opinions. But this is where I see it as a democratic tool as well. It creates a debate, and we need to debate that. So that's...
Thank you, Olivier, for excellent research and presentation. I'm very sad, unhappy, because of the heavy environmental smoke exposure in Turkey. For example, in our health campuses. In one of our studies, we detected that 27% of children under 5 years of age are second-hand smokers because the family and the mother are smokers. I am very curious and thinking about, I am wondering your suggestions about how can we prevent, or how can we establish smoke-free areas, especially in our health campus, in our university campus, and among our students, medical students, for example.
Thank you for the question. I don't have the solution, but I've got pointers. One is ask them, involve the students. They have the answers on how to talk to people. The other is there are different tools, and we've done prevention campaigns, in schools, in the society, including for sort of making people aware that when there are children under 5 around them, they shouldn't smoke. So we did several of these, but probably the most efficient tool, especially demonstrated in this area, is the legislation. You forbid the advertising, you forbid the sale to small children, and you increase taxes. So my point here, I will give the last bit of answer to the youngsters here. When I was a medical student, I had no idea about laws. I didn't even know we were working in an environment directed by laws. Okay, infection now, with COVID, we have infection control laws, etc. But please do discover that through the child rights of the health. Because for several years I thought, oh, it's like that, we have to do like that. No, it's a tool for prevention. You can change a law. Timescale is different. It's 10 years, but, what's 10 years in a life of what, 70, 80 years old of benefit for the children you see now? So. Yeah, okay.
The last one. No, the last one.
Yeah, just one quick comment. We don't do things very well in Florida, where I come from, but our governor was the first to sue the tobacco industry in U.S. So it resulted in $25 billion. A huge amount of money. What he did then was to require every health department in the state to create a tobacco prevention program. Every one of those had to have a majority of youth on the group, and then he convened a group of young people to create the campaign against the tobacco smoking. He built a train so that the youth would go from city to city. The only reason why I mention it, it was the most successful health promotion campaign that had ever been done in the country, as defined by the Centers for Disease Control. Decreased smoking by like 80% amongst young kids, by about 80%. They had billboards of the faces of the presidents of the tobacco industry on bodies that made them look ridiculous. They called anonymously and so on and so forth. So it's a great example, is if you want to do something health promotion related to youth, let them run it completely.
Thank you.
I apologize, but I'll be speaking in Spanish. I'm really sorry for my audience. Okay. So, soy Gabriel Zarauza, residente de tercer año de pediatría en el Hospital Joan 23, y venimos junto con mi equipo del hospital a presentaros los 2 años de experiencia en la unidad integrada de Barnahus y lo que nos hemos encontrado en los datos. Muy bien. En cuanto al abuso sexual, sabemos que es un problema cada vez más presente en nuestra sociedad y cada vez más real. A pesar de que es difícil hacer una estimación de la prevalencia, sabemos por estudios que se estima que 1 de cada 5 menores podría ser víctima de un abuso sexual en la infancia, que utilizaré el acrónimo para ser más conciso de ASI, durante su infancia. Los abusos sexuales, como sabemos, pueden tener consecuencias tanto emocionales, sociales, sexuales a corto, medio y largo plazo. En la Barnahus, o Casa de los Niños, son unidades que centralizan tanto los recursos como los profesionales que intervienen en la asistencia de los menores víctimas de ASI. Y uno de los conceptos claves en los que se basa nuestra actividad es en evitar lo que llamamos la victimización secundaria. Es un concepto que se define como las consecuencias negativas que produce al menor todo el proceso tanto de revelación como de denuncia a lo largo de su paso por los organismos públicos. Y por ello hemos intentado centralizarlo para que sea de una forma más integral y con menor número de interrogatorios, menor número de victimización a lo largo del proceso. Con respuesta a este problema que comentamos de la victimización secundaria, en los años 80 en Estados Unidos se implementó y posteriormente pasó a los países nórdicos y se exportó a toda Europa la integración de unas unidades integradas llamadas Barnahus o Children's House. Nosotros en Tarragona, nuestra ciudad, es el primer proyecto piloto en España de una unidad integrada de atención a los menores víctimas de ASI. Vale. Nuestro objetivo con este estudio básicamente es analizar los datos recogidos en 2 años y medio de experiencia y compararlos con los datos analizados en la literatura ya existente. Para ello realizamos un estudio descriptivo retrospectivo con los datos extraídos del programa informático SINIA, perteneciente a los derechos sociales, en el que incluimos pacientes de 0 a 18 años visitados en la unidad integrada de Barnahus desde marzo de 2020 hasta marzo de 2023. Recogemos variables sociodemográficas, tipos de abuso, edad, vía de entrada a la unidad, enfermedades de transmisión sexual detectadas y presencia de secuelas psicológicas secundarias. Para ello hacemos también una revisión sistemática de lo descrito en la literatura sobre el ASI y comparamos los resultados con los descritos previamente. Durante los 2 años... ¿Me pasarías? Por discusión. Durante los 2 años de actividad de nuestra unidad hemos recogido un total de 719 casos. Como vemos, es muy notable el aumento del número de casos de un año a otro, siendo casi del 200% el incremento de 2020 a 2021 y de cerca del 150% de 2021 a 2022. Y también comentar que siempre esos datos al final están infraestimados, que hay muchísimos casos que claramente no se denunciarán y que no llegarán a nosotros. En cuanto a la edad de las víctimas, se ve que hay un predominio de sobre todo niñas, como vemos en el sexo, que hay un predominio de mujeres, de mayores de 12 años sobre todo. Y en cuanto al estado, vemos un aumento de los casos judicializados y el tipo de abuso encontramos que más de la mitad de los casos son abusos producidos por personas fuera del ámbito familiar, es decir, del ámbito extrafamiliar. En cuanto a las secuelas que encontramos, predominan las secuelas psiquiátricas. Vemos un aumento sobre todo del estrés, de los trastornos de estrés postraumático y un aumento de la gravedad de las patologías ya de base encontradas en nuestras víctimas. A destacar, cabe que más del 60% de nuestros casos ya presentaban patologías psiquiátricas a la hora de iniciar todo el proceso, que también es importante. En cuanto a la exploración física realizada, vimos en el 12% de las pacientes signos de autolesiones. Muy bien. En cuanto a las conclusiones, lo que vemos comparando con los datos de la bibliografía, vemos, como ya hemos comentado, sobre todo un aumento de los casos, dato que relacionamos un poco con el aumento de las actividades preventivas, un aumento de concienciación social y familiar, y una mayor accesibilidad, tanto por cuerpos del Estado como por nuestras unidades integradas. En cuanto a los casos judicializados, también hemos visto un aumento de los casos que se llevan a juzgado. También lo relacionamos con un aumento de la accesibilidad de los cuerpos del Estado en relación a la apertura de nuestra unidad de Barnahus, también con la preparación psicológica especializada que eso conlleva. Vemos, comparando con la literatura, concordando con ella, vemos el predominio sobre todo del sexo femenino en los casos recogidos. La edad, que también predomina, como hemos comentado, tanto en la literatura como en nuestros datos, que es más prevalente en mayores de 12 años, entre 12 y 18 años. Y en la exploración física destacamos que, igual que en la literatura, vemos un porcentaje de lesiones en área genital del 4%, ya sea de himen, de introito, eso es lo que vemos. A diferencia de la literatura, cabe destacar sobre todo los datos de abusos producidos en el ámbito extrafamiliar, que vemos más de la mitad de los casos son producidos por agresores de este ámbito. También lo relacionamos con que dentro del ámbito intrafamiliar vemos muchas dificultades, más dificultades que en el ámbito extrafamiliar, para tanto la denuncia como la incomodidad que es todo el proceso cuando está envuelto alguien de tu propia familia, claramente. En cuanto a las enfermedades de transmisión sexual descritas en la literatura, vemos una diferencia, ya que los patógenos en cultivos vaginales se describen un predominio de la tricomona vaginalis como patógeno emergente, que en nuestros datos no hemos visto ningún solo caso. Recogimos un dato de una niña afectada de sífilis y otra de gonococo. Bueno, y eso sería. ¿Sí? Estupendo. Claro. Es que me he olvidado totalmente.
Bueno, muchas gracias por tu presentación. La verdad es que ha estado muy bien y refleja muy bien el problema que es esto, ¿no? Y cómo ha ido aumentando justo después de la pandemia, que yo creo que es una cosa que hemos visto todos los pediatras. También la edad, o sea, la edad de 12 para arriba, yo creo que también es una de las causas por qué el extrafamiliar es más frecuente también, por la prontitud con la que las chicas hoy en día establecen relaciones sexuales, ¿no? Y cómo lo hacen. Entonces, pues, quería saber, pues, ¿a qué achacáis este aumento desde el 2020 al 2023?
Bueno, es lo que comentamos. También, hombre, tener una unidad integrada y la accesibilidad que eso supone, ya sea desde cuerpos del Estado como desde educación, hace muchísimo más fácil que lleguen a nosotros estos casos, ¿no? Y lo relacionamos también con que, pues lo que comentábamos, esta victimización secundaria hacía que el proceso fuera tan incómodo y tan largo que seguramente muchísimos casos no se recogían. Aparte de que, bueno, pues lo que comentamos de esa infraestimación y de que, pues por ejemplo, nosotros tenemos un 12% creo que de los casos pendientes todavía de judicializar o que no vayan a ningún puerto. Pero bueno, muchos casos se quedan ahí en el tintero, claro. ¿Alguien más?
Los casos extrafamiliares de los que habláis, por ejemplo, nosotros ahí en Madrid a veces se nos ha dado la circunstancia de que es la pareja, sucede en el domicilio, pero a lo mejor es una pareja, no sé si ocasional, pero de corto periodo de tiempo. ¿Esos casos los habéis incluido en intrafamiliares o extrafamiliares?
Incluíamos más gente relacionada con la familia, pero que estaba fuera del ámbito intrafamiliar. Pero si fueran parejas, no te sé decir ahora mismo los datos, pero entra, ¿no? Sobre todo si son parejas estables, ¿no? De durante un tiempo.
Vale.
Pues aprovechando, yo también tenía una duda.
Sí.
En estos casos, ¿cómo os los derivan? Porque claro, la circunstancia que se suele dar es que acuden a los sistemas de urgencias. Entonces, para evitar la victimización secundaria, ¿cómo lo hacéis?
Nosotros, claro, nuestra atención realmente se basa más en el abuso, no sé si lo llamaría crónico. Nuestra unidad, básicamente, tú en el abuso agudo, en el momento agudo, normalmente van por urgencias. Pero sí que es verdad que hay muchos casos en los que no es un abuso casual, sino una repetición, ¿no? Y ahí nos llegan pues muchas veces desde educación o desde cuerpos del Estado, ¿no? Y eso es ya más una denuncia y no es que me haya abusado hoy, sino que ha sido algo repetido durante el tiempo. Si quieres, Marta, sí. Bueno, ella es Marta Castilla, que es la coordinadora
Hola, ¿qué
de
tal?
Barnahus.
Un poquito contestando a vuestras preguntas, estos casos nos llegan desde diferentes ámbitos, desde educación hasta cuerpos del Estado cuando hacen las denuncias. En Cataluña tenemos el Cataluña en Infancia Respon, que también las familias pueden acceder directamente a este número para hacer las denuncias, y ellos, a través de Derechos Sociales e Infancia, son los que nos ponen en conocimiento de todos los casos. Y es cuando ya hacemos la intervención de manera conjunta. Pero se entran desde diferentes ámbitos. Y un poco contestando también a la pregunta que hacía la primera pregunta de la compañera, también vemos este aumento de casos y lo relacionamos con que a raíz de la abertura de Barnahus se han hecho muchas actividades preventivas a nivel de la ciudad y mucha promoción de la salud a nivel de educación, pues a nivel de las escuelas, de las familias, y eso ha hecho que facilitemos un poco la prevención y la revelación de los casos.
Marta, aprovechando, ¿cómo funcionáis? Cuéntanos qué es una Barnahus. Cuéntanos.
Pues la Barnahus es, bueno, lo que ha contado un poco Gabriel, es una casa que se ha formado a las afueras de Tarragona con la idea de que las niñas y niños que han sufrido este tipo de victimización no tengan que ir a un hospital con todo lo que eso conlleva para ellos. Entonces somos los profesionales los que nos desplazamos allí para hacer las exploraciones físicas, físicas, valoraciones médicas y psicológicas por parte de las psicólogas sanitarias también. Y un poco pues los que llevan un poco la situación son derechos sociales, pero nosotros actuamos de manera conjunta con ellos y básicamente es un trabajo de coordinación con ellos y de valoración conjunta para evitar la victimización secundaria.
Pero es evaluación y seguimiento.
Sí.
Y tratamiento.
Sí.
Vale.
Evaluación y tratamiento.
Muchas gracias. Ahora no hay tiempo para más, luego la acribillamos a preguntas a Marta.
Bueno, mi nombre es Celia Pascual, soy residente de cuarto año del Hospital de Getafe, ahí en la Comunidad de Madrid, y nosotras os queríamos presentar, junto con la doctora Bárbara Rubio, un poco dar a conocer la consulta de pediatría social en un hospital de segundo nivel, un hospital mediano, que puede ser una cosa poco común o poco ejercida en este tipo de hospital. La consulta de pediatría social nosotros la hacemos junto con la de pediatría general, pero bueno, la mayoría de los pacientes que vemos son de pediatría social. Esta consulta aborda no solo las necesidades médicas de los pacientes, sino también sus necesidades sociales y emocionales, garantizando o pretendiendo garantizar un enfoque integral y de su atención. Creo que todos los pediatras, por lo menos españoles que estamos aquí, hemos notado desde el comienzo de la pandemia de COVID un aumento de casos de riesgo social, o si no tanto un aumento, como que nos estamos dando más cuenta o se está notificando más. Entonces, queríamos traer en números, en un periodo de tiempo de unos 4 años y medio, cómo habían sido las primeras visitas o cómo se había modificado el tipo de paciente que viene por primera vez a esta consulta después de las medidas de confinamiento. Baja un poco. Para ello hemos hecho, hacia la derecha, perdóname, hacia la derecha, que es que como no está en el formato horizontal. Para ello hemos hecho un estudio observacional, retrospectivo, descriptivo, en nuestro hospital, y hemos seleccionado todos los pacientes de primera consulta que eran menores de 17 años en un periodo de 4 años y medio, de enero de 2019 a agosto del 2023. Y hemos ido recogiendo variables de diferentes tipos, demográficas, edad, sexo, origen, grupo diagnóstico, porque como es una consulta variada, no solo vienen casos de pediatría social y entonces hemos querido filiar un poco todos, vienen de pediatría general, una primera valoración de neurodesarrollo y de salud mental y finalmente el origen de estas derivaciones, principalmente en 3 grupos. El grupo pediátrico hospitalario, que serían las urgencias y también la hospitalización, luego atención primaria y luego la zona más extrapediátrica, que serían las derivaciones desde salud mental y los organismos educativos. Bájame abajo a la izquierda. Eso. Entonces, ¿qué datos iniciales nos salieron? Bueno, en principio tuvimos en todo este periodo 435 pacientes, en el que el perfil, en el que el de pediatría social fueron como unos 189 pacientes, de los cuales, ¿qué era lo más frecuente que viniera? Pues una niña de unos 7 años y medio, que principalmente eran un 67,8% española, pero también nos encontrábamos un grupo significativo de gente de Latinoamérica, en un 13,13%, principalmente de República Dominicana y Colombia, y un 10,6% del norte de África, siendo su máxima representación la población marroquí. Esta paciente venía derivada principalmente de atención primaria en la mitad de los casos, pero en una cuarta parte de los casos venía derivada de atención hospitalaria, especialmente en urgencias, como vamos a ver en los resultados, y la otra mitad derivada desde el centro de salud mental o el equipo de orientación escolar. Eso. Entonces, ¿para qué atendemos bajo lo que nosotros llamamos el grupo diagnóstico de pediatría social? Lo más frecuente ahora mismo en este perfil es sobre todo el riesgo social. Lo siguiente más frecuente sería la atención integral, sobre todo a niños, niñas y adolescentes con necesidades especiales, ya que nosotros no disponemos una consulta monográfica de manejo de paciente crónico complejo y entonces, como a veces este tipo de pacientes necesitan garantizar unas medidas sociales que se cumplen adecuadamente, lo seguimos en esta consulta y luego ya vendrían un poco pues todos los casos que se manejan de maltrato infantil, abuso sexual infantil y también seguimiento de embarazo adolescente. Ponte la tabla. Entonces, con todos estos datos, ¿qué conclusiones llegamos? Bueno, hicimos un análisis comparativo, hemos hecho un análisis comparativo de estos últimos años, en el que dividimos un periodo pre-COVID 2019-2020 y un periodo post-COVID 2021-2022 y lo que hemos conseguido obtener de 2023. En el que más o menos el perfil de paciente se mantiene similar en edad, es un niño escolar de unos 7 años y medio, pero sí que se ha visto un incremento de las derivaciones desde urgencias en el grupo de pediatría social. Esto no solo nos queremos quedar con la parte pesimista de que están aumentando los casos de riesgo social, sino que también está habiendo una mejora en la notificación y una mayor sensibilización y un conocimiento de los pediatras de que pueden utilizar este recurso y pueden acabar derivándolos a ellos. Y un poco en consonancia a este aumento de la derivación, pues ha habido un aumento, ¿no?, del diagnóstico, del grupo diagnóstico de que nosotros hablamos de pediatría social. Como podéis ver ahí, que los números son bastante significativos, porque hemos pasado de un periodo pre-COVID de un 30% a un 54,8% en lo analizado desde en 2023. Otro dato que sí que queríamos traer, que nos parecía interesante, es que dijimos, muy bien, ¿tiene algo que ver la inmigración en esto? Los pacientes pediátricos de primera visita que vienen de pediatría social son frecuentemente más extranjeros y, en principio, en los datos hemos visto que no es estadísticamente significativo. Baja un poquito. ¿Eso qué quiere decir? Pues que lo más probable es que este riesgo social digamos que afecta a todos los niños por igual, independientemente de dónde vengan. ¿Cuáles han sido nuestras conclusiones de nuestro estudio? Que nos parece una consulta interesante, que creo que muy dinámica, que tiene mucho que aportar en los hospitales medianos, porque puede ayudar a asesorar no solo a las familias, sino a los profesionales que trabajan alrededor de ella, y que comienza a ser una necesidad emergente en la que nos tenemos que formar, porque además, tras la pandemia, se puede ver un cambio en los problemas de salud que tenemos que afrontar.
Cuando hablas de pacientes extranjeros frente a españoles, la dificultad con la que yo me encuentro muchas veces es que si no se pregunta,
efectivamente,
el niño nacido en España cuenta español.
Sí.
Entonces, la problemática que tiene un niño nacido en España de padres extranjeros es diferente de la que tiene un niño nacido en España de padres españoles.
Totalmente.
Entonces, cuando hablas ahí de españoles y extranjeros, ¿a qué españoles te refieres?
Nosotros hicimos los grupos en función de nacimiento, lo primero si figuraba nacido en España, pues nacido en España, pero hicimos un subgrupo porque nosotros cuando en la primera consulta dejamos bien reflejado el origen de los padres. Y entonces, gracias a eso, pudimos hacer un subgrupo en el que analizamos los hijos de segunda generación, en los que consideramos como extranjeros, que fue lo que nos salió no estadísticamente significativo. Sí.
Mi consulta no.
Ya.
Hola. Mira, es que te quería preguntar, es acerca de lo que has dicho de las remisiones y el aumento de las remisiones desde urgencias.
Sí.
Si lo habíais comparado con el número total de remisiones.
Sí.
Y si, porque eso sí que nos puede dar un indicativo de si estamos haciendo bien el trabajo, que es sensibilizar al resto de la comunidad pediátrica para detectar eso, porque lo que no se ve no se diagnostica.
Exacto.
¿No estás atento? ¿O es por un aumento total del grupo o es por las dos cosas?
Nosotros, la verdad que en esa tabla no está, porque claro, pues esto es un breve resumen, pero la verdad que la cantidad de niños vistos por año era bastante homogéneo en las primeras visitas. Y lo que sí que llamaba la atención y que salió significativo fue el aumento de derivaciones en el grupo diagnóstico de pediatría social, no en el grupo diagnóstico de a lo mejor de pediatría general, porque en ese era atención primaria. Pero sí que salió estadísticamente significativo que los casos de riesgo social, maltrato infantil y abuso sexual infantil, el origen principal era desde las urgencias de pediatría. Entonces, tanto el aumento de casos como el aumento de notificaciones fue un aumento proporcional.
Eso es que los resis están aprendiendo.
Sí.
Muy bien, muy bien. So tomorrow we will talk more about the units of pediatría social. We will talk. There's a round table tomorrow. Mañana hay una mesa entera para hablar de esto, así que te esperamos. Okay, so we have finished. Now all of them are going to enter inside, so you can stay if you want, or you can take a walk.